this is a journey which every aspirant goes through. In this examination, nothing is easy and those doubts are always there in your head. I try to stick to the syllabus, both for the prelims as well as the mains examination. First, understand why you're giving this examination. If you feel it's only out of external pressure, I think you won't be able to sustain it if you don't have that internal motivation.
Hello and welcome to Baijus Exam Prep IAS. Final results of the Civil Services Examination 2021, commonly known as IAS Examination 2021, have been declared. 685 students have been selected and lakhs of students they appear for this exam. So that way it becomes one of the toughest examination, lengthiest examination of this world. Today, to discuss the nuances of civil services examination, to have a holistic perspective with regards to how to start with, what are the do's and don'ts for this examination. Today we are joined by the topper of this examination, All India Rank 1 of Civil Services Examination 2021, Miss Shruti Sharma. Welcome Shruti Sharma. First of all, congratulations on behalf of Baijus Exam Prep IAS and heartiest congratulations for getting this rank 1.
Thank you so much, sir.
Just getting into the list is a dream for so many students and coming on top of that list. So first, do share with us for the students about your journey, your challenges, ups and downs, so that the students, they get motivated and they get some lessons.
Yes, sir. First of all, I'm really grateful that I got this rank. As you said, just getting on the list was a dream for me. So I'm very grateful that this could happen. As for my journey, sir, I think although I always had in mind somewhere at the back of my head that this is an examination that I wanted to appear for, especially towards the end of graduation, I started sort of looking at various material regarding the examination, but it was mainly after my graduation that I started preparing. And there were constant ups and downs. There were times when I didn't feel like studying anymore. This was my second attempt. In the last attempt, I couldn't clear. So there were constant ups and downs, but I think I had my goal in mind. I thought that this is something that I wanted to do, and I gave my 100%, and hopefully the result was positive.
So actually, actually, it was not your second attempt. It was your first attempt actually, because I think, as I know, last year in your first attempt there was some mistake with regards to medium of instruction, right?
Yes,
what was that?
Sir, actually, I still can't understand how that happened, but there was some technical issue due to which my medium for the mains examination got changed from English to Hindi.
Oh.
So, and I got to know this 2 months before my mains examination. When I got my DAF, I had to fill in my DAF again. So, at that point, there were two options. Either I could give the examination in Hindi or completely forego my attempt. So, I chose to give the examination to the best of my ability. I used my notes, which I had already prepared. I used Google Translate. I used to refer to certain Hindi books. And after that, I missed the interview call by 1 mark.
Oh, so in the first attempt also you cleared your prelims.
Yes, sir.
And because of that technical mistake that happened, there was some mishap in your mains examination.
Yes, sir.
Now, my another query is with regards to your journey itself. First preparation you cleared prelims.
Yes.
There was some technical issue. Second attempt, top of the list. But there are students who are preparing for 5-7 years and they are unable to even clear this prelims examination. They feel exhausted, demotivated. What was the secret? Why prelims was so easy for you?
Sir, I think in this examination nothing is easy and those doubts are always there in your head. But I try to keep a certain strategy. I try to keep my sources limited, and I feel there's no secret to anyone cracking the examination. Everyone has their own strategy. But I try to keep my sources limited to the maximum extent possible. I try to stick to the syllabus, both for the prelims as well as the mains examination. For prelims, I think I personally found it to be the most challenging stage of all 3 examinations, and I personally was most apprehensive of that stage. But I think I could clear because I mainly relied on basic conceptual understanding, because especially in the last 2 years, we see that merely rote learning and mugging up current affairs does not lead you results, but a core understanding of economic concepts, polity concepts. If you have those base ready, more than 50 questions, 50-60 questions you won't have seen before you sit for the prelims examination. But if you maintain a calm mind at that point and try to use the concepts that you have read, maybe those very concepts you may not have read before that paper, but if you just apply whatever you have read till that point with a calm mind during those 2 hours, I think you are in a better place to crack the examination than someone else.
Okay, that means sticking to basics,
Yes, sir.
clearing your conceptual doubts and consolidating your concepts, that was the key, right?
Yes, sir.
Because clearing prelims in the first attempt itself is an achievement. And second attempt, you topped the list.
Yes.
Great. Now, Shruti, you were our student as well.
Yes.
BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS, you were a student of tablet learning program, and then you joined us at mock stage as well.
Yes.
How did you first get in touch with Baijus?
So it was actually my mother who saw an ad of Baijus in the newspaper, and since this was something that I wanted to do, so she showed me the paper, and she asked me to probably go and come to Baijus and see what this was all about. I was initially a little apprehensive because I was doing my graduation. I thought I could not devote enough time to each of them, but it gave me an insight, the tablet program. I think it gave me an introduction of what topics to study, how to study, because I was a complete newbie to it. So that is how it helped me in the initial part of the preparation, and then I came back for the mock interview stage after I cleared the mains.
Great. Now, what made you go for this Baijus tablet program during initial stage of your preparation, and which way you found that it actually ignited your curiosity and then you gave your 100% and finally result is before us?
Yes, sir. At that point, I did not want to enroll for any full-time classes because I was already in a graduation program. And my mother suggested that I could possibly take this tablet program to get an insight and to start beginning my preparation, because I had no idea. So I initially looked at the polity lectures, I looked at the CSAT, some of the CSAT lectures that were there, I looked at the geography lectures. So these were certain subjects that I had not read from the, although I had a humanities background, but I had not read from the examination point of view. So it gave me an insight as to how to link the exam preparation with whatever I had read along with the current affairs.
Right. Great. Thank you, Shruti. Now, Shruti, overall, what is your view and what is your take about the lectures that you find or you found and regarding our webinars or CNA, whatever is associated with tablet learning program? What is your take on that?
Yes, sir. I think at that time during graduation, I mostly skimmed through most of the lectures that were there. But I've heard also that more new additions are also being made in terms of current affairs with Pushpesh Pant sir and Vikas Swaroop sir. These Pushpesh Pant sir and Vikas sir and Vikram Singh sir helped me during the interview stage, and their insights I think can be helpful in getting an idea of the current happenings around the world. And there are more than 500 plus hours of lectures in the tablet program. So I feel it can give an insight as to an introduction into the course.
Right. Thank you, Shruti. Shruti, even though you addressed that question, but in just as a nutshell, in brief, how a student can bring down the unpredictability of prelims examination. Suppose I am planning to start my preparation. And everyone says that is highly unpredictable. What makes it predictable and what made it predictable for you?
Yes, sir. I think predictability is something that I did not go for, but still I feel looking at previous year question papers was very important for me in terms of analyzing how the questions are framed, how the options are framed. Sometimes I felt looking at the other options in a previous year question paper and searching them individually helped me answer questions later on. So for example, last year there was a question on Mongols in the prelims paper. This year I didn't give the prelims paper, but if a person had gone back and read more about the Mongols, he or she could have answered the Mongols question that came this year. Right. So if you look at previous year question papers, that is one thing. And secondly, as I said earlier, I feel just understanding concepts and not just like mugging up or going through the syllabus cursorily, but understanding concepts of polity, the basics of polity, the basics of economics, so that you can apply them in any which way in which it appears in the prelims examination.
Great. Shruti, how many newspapers a student should read, and is it necessary to make notes out of it?
Yes, sir. I think this depends from person to person. I think considering the vast syllabus that we have, reading one newspaper I think is more than enough. I initially used to read the Hindu. Later on, towards the interview, I shifted to the Indian Express, and during the interview stage, I think you can go for more than one newspaper as well to get more opinions. But usually one paper, either the Hindu or Indian Express or anything else that they wish to do. As for making notes, I think making copious notes every day of the newspaper can be an issue. Some people do make it. I personally did not make them, but I made notes of issues that were important. So I did not make article based or newspaper based notes completely, but I used to refer to the syllabus. And if there were important issues in the syllabus that had appeared in the paper, so I used to use the content of the paper as well as other sources to make notes of that topic rather than just that article. Otherwise, apart from that, any current affairs which I felt could come in the upcoming mains examination, those also I made.
Great, thank you. Now, so many people might have asked this question regarding number of hours. People say 15 hours, 17 hours and God knows what. How many hours do I need to study? Average.
Sir, I think again this is a constant question that I am asked, and sadly I do not have any clear-cut answers because I truly believe that everyone has their own way of studying. I personally was a person who, when I wanted to study, I could study for really long hours, and when I didn't want to study, I did not study at all. So I made certain targets for myself in terms of topics, but at the same time, I wouldn't also say that, you know, just 2-3 hours of study every day will. At least I think 6 to 8 hours you need to put in for a certain amount.
And continuous.
Yeah, continuously. Like though you can take breaks obviously, and according to your, for example, if I feel you're not feeling like studying at all and constantly pushing yourself when you have something else in your mind, that can also be counterproductive. You may just be sitting and not studying. So take that break, but then come back with a renewed vigor.
Great. Now Shruti, there is a very important part of the civil services examination, that is perseverance. People say it is not a sprint, it is marathon. You need, even for one attempt, you need 1.5 years. What kept you motivated, and how students can maintain their tempo? Because initially they start with great degree of enthusiasm. I have to crack this exam. But over a period of time, they start losing their steam. What is the motivation factor, and how they can keep themselves focused?
Yes, sir. I think the most important thing which one needs to understand and ask oneself is why they are writing this examination. So I think even if other factors go out, you have an internal motivation, an internal accountability with yourself. So I think that is the most important. Understanding why you're giving, apart from the parental pressure or external pressure or desire for status or all of those other things. So first is that, sir. Secondly, despite that, despite having that motivation, often you do feel demotivated when you feel that your effort is not bringing results. So I think at that point, a supportive and positive environment, and having a positive group of friends around you, or in my case, apart from my friends, my parents were always a source of mental and moral support. So I think that can obviously help. And take breaks, understand why you're giving the examination, and come back.
History was your optional.
Yes, sir.
It is very vast. It is set.
Yes, sir.
First, is it vast? And second, a general question. What is the criteria one should apply before selecting a subject as optional?
Yes, sir. So it is a vast optional, and this was a challenge that I did face before my mains examination in terms of balancing GS and history. But sir, I also had a background in history, so I always had an interest in history. So I think first and foremost, before choosing any optional, you should make sure that you have an interest in it. Because you have to study long hours, especially before mains. more than half of my day was spent in history, in studying my optional only, and there was very little time left for general studies. So first is interest, only then you can put in long hours of study. Secondly, I feel you should have material and guidance of some sort, because having a strategy, there is a different strategy I feel for different optionals. So interest first and foremost. Secondly, having a material. For me, I used my coaching, my graduation notes as well, and guidance from previous year aspirants who had cleared. I think that helped me.
So interest is the foremost criteria. Yes. You are fond of eating and watching movies also.
Yes.
But on the other hand, people say that you have to be to detach yourself from social media and everything. But you are fond of watching movies, eating also. Is it so? I need to deactivate my social media accounts. I need to be an anti-social. If I rephrase it, what is your take on that?
Sir, I think that is a completely personal decision. I have friends who have completely cut off from social media for 1.5 years when they were studying, and that worked out for them, because some people feel that they cannot impose those restrictions upon themselves. But I personally did not completely go away from any social media channels. I had accounts on them, but I used to use them sparingly at certain hours of the day. So that balance I tried to maintain. So that is the decision I think personally individuals need to take according to their own needs.
Okay. So there is no general rule for that.
Yes, sir, yes.
Great. Now Shruti, if I look at your mains results, marks, you are way ahead of the second ranker. And the gap between rank 1 and rank 2 is more than 60 marks, right? How to create extraordinary answers, and how did you sharpen your writing skills so that you achieve this kind of marks? Because after so many years, we find a student from a humanities background coming rank 1. So how did you sharpen your writing skills?
Sir, I think the challenge in the mains answer writing is both time and content, and balancing both becomes a little difficult. And at the initial stage, not just me, anyone who starts writing answers faces problems in either the time issue or the content issue. So I think the only solution to that is practice. But practice should also not be just practice in writing. So you need to constantly better yourself. So the next time when you're writing, there is some addition that you're making from the previous time. So for that, what I used to do, we had study groups. So we used to write previous year question papers, 3 or 4 questions we used to write in a time limit. Then we used to sit together, look at each other's answers and make additions and make a certain model answer out of it. Secondly, sir, I also looked at previous year toppers answer sheets and tried to see, this is a better introduction, this is a better quote that maybe I can use in an ethics answer. So I used to take tips from them. Thirdly, I used to make notes, as I said, of the newspaper, of any other issue that I'm reading in the magazine. Any example that I used to see, for example, agriculture in technology is the topic in the mains. So if the newspaper, if I see a certain, on the science and tech page, I see a certain innovation being made in a, so I used to just jot them down that next time there's an agriculture and technology question, I'll use that example. Or if there's an internal security question, a drone attack has happened, so I'll use the example of the state where it's happened. So it just adds a certain addition when the examiner is checking. It makes it slightly more updated rather than just the material that everyone is following. So that is what I use.
Good. And what about writing speed? Because UPSC also demands a good amount of speed and legibility also.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So how I can speed up?
So then again, I think practice is the only answer, because in the previous attempt, although there were double issues because I was writing in another script only, Devanagari. So that again made me really slow. I missed 2-3 questions, sometimes even more in each paper. But this time I used to practice answer writing, and I think this is a check that you need to keep on yourself, because often when you're writing test series at home, there is no one to keep a check on you. You know that you can, extend the time limit also and then still send it for checking. But that's a check that you need to keep on yourself, that I need to finish this answer in 6 minutes or 6.5 minutes and not more than that, and then send it for checking. So I think gradually with the practice over a period of time, you will achieve that.
And regarding section A of essay paper, which has abstract things, some quotations, because we are having vast ocean in front of us. How many quotations one can mug up or memorize? How to tackle such questions?
Yes, sir. So this again, people think that having a collection of quotes or having a collection of examples will be enough, or having, there is a certain approach, PESTLE approach, where you take up political, economic, social. But gradually we see in the past 2-3 years, these are not the kind of questions which are being asked. They're very wide-ranging, random philosophical quotes.
Right.
So I think a better understanding of what the question is demanding and a flow in writing, and you need to know where to use the quotes.
Right.
It's not just putting up quotes, just parachuting them and putting them everywhere. It looks very odd. So I think a gradual, and this again, I think the answer to most of these questions is very basic in terms of practice, revision. So I think here again, practice reading toppers' essay sheets, or reading certain other essays that you find, or articles in the newspaper. Developing that writing skill, I think, can help in the long run.
Great. And one thing more should say, it is said that what is to be read for civil services, that is secondary. What is not to be read is primary. How did you know? And how to select my resources for this examination? Because we are having problem of plenty. Lots of videos, lots of channels, lots of types of resources we have. How did you get and select the most appropriate resource, or were you also got digressed? What is your experience and what is your advice?
Yes, sir. I think this is a journey which every aspirant goes through. Initially, there is so much to offer. So gradually you narrow down things. And so I think the only advice that I would give anyone who is starting this examination is sticking to the basic books first of all. So choosing one basic book, which different people will suggest different things. So you can go through 2-3 of them and make that choice yourself for each subject. One basic book. But apart from that, due to the nature of these examinations, the syllabus, I think, is something that the UPSC has already provided you. And so sticking to the syllabus, especially, I felt really helps in the mains examination.
Right.
Because many questions directly come from the wordings that are provided. So when you're reading the paper, when you're reading any other material even as well, apart from your basic book, then just keep on adding stuff according to the syllabus and the requirements of the syllabus, as well as previous year question papers.
Okay.
So I think the previous year question papers and syllabus are a guide as to what you should read and what not to read.
Okay, previous year's question paper and syllabus. And also, Shruti, there is a myth. People come to me, sir, I want to prepare for prelims. Even though we try to convince, you cannot dissociate itself. So, what strategy a beginner should adopt? Prelims first, thereafter I should focus on mains, or what should be the overall strategy?
Sir, I think that is a flawed strategy, I feel, because even I gave my first attempt in 2020 and then my second one in 2021. At that time, I could have given my attempt in 2019 as well, but I didn't give because my mains preparation was not strong at that point.
Okay.
So I feel it's always an integrated preparation, because even after you complete prelims and you don't have enough, because there's a lot in terms of optional, in terms of mains, there's a lot to read. So then in those 2 months, you won't be able to complete much, and then you'll be stuck in that cycle again.
Right.
So I feel it's always an integrated preparation. At the same time, there are certain tweaks to your strategy that you need to make immediately before prelims, immediately before mains, and immediately before interview. So before prelims, the 2-3 months that you spend, you should spend more on answering test series, looking at basic books. Before mains, you should spend more time on answer writing, looking at optional, and obviously before interview, just looking at your DAF and other things. So there are slight tweaks, but I feel the conceptual understanding should be very strong before you enter the prelims exam.
Before you write your attempt.
Prelims, yes.
Okay. And what about this one column that is in DAF, hobbies, extracurricular activities? Because after interacting with thousands of students, we realize that 90% of them, they don't mean it. So does it affect the outcome, or they should take it seriously, that hobbies and extracurriculum column?
Hobbies and extracurricular should not be just an instrumental thing that you write in the DAF. And if you don't actually pursue a hobby and you write it, I think it comes across in some way in the interview as well. So I think, and I think there should be a balance even when you're studying or doing something else. Even during studying, we take breaks as well. So I think people generally, as an advice, I would say to cultivate some hobby of some sort, to take a breather. And I think there's more to life than just studying. So I think that wholesome personality should be developed early on, and not just for the UPSC examination.
Great. There is a challenge of current affairs as well. What to study, what not to study. and you can say crores and crores of facts are coming up on daily basis. How a student can cope up with this ever daunting, ever challenging, the most challenging rather, this current affairs part?
Yes, sir. Sir, here again, there are multiple strategies followed by different people. Initially, I used to, apart from the newspaper is something that I relied on throughout my preparation. But apart from that, I used to look at some monthly current affairs magazines as well. But I realized it was a lot of information to take in and I wasn't able to revise. So I think one should pick up only those things which he or she is able to revise.
Right.
And once you expand your sources too much, the revision is not possible. So then I used to mainly rely on my newspaper for both prelims and mains, and as I said, used to make notes for that. And apart from that, the yearly compilations I used to study for current affairs before the prelims examination.
Okay. And you talked about revision, right?
Yes.
So what is the best strategy to revise, because syllabus is too bulky?
Yes.
What is, how to make their notes concise, and how can they revise the facts? And there is also one issue, students, they complain that I cannot mug up the facts. I am good at analytical skills. Is there any way to memorize the facts? Like history was your optional, so many facts are there. But the students, they often complain that they are unable to mug up facts. How to deal with this?
Yes, sir. I think this was an issue. Although I have my optional as history and my background as history, dates is something that I always struggled with, and remembering dates. So I think as hard as, I mean, to be really honest, some things you do have to mug up in terms of dates, and also that is something that I did struggle with. But at the same time, one should not mug up things that do not need to be mugged up. Right. So things that you can understand, I think you should try to relate with things in terms of context also. Okay, for example, if something is happening in a certain period, what else was happening in India, in the north at that time or in the south at that time. So you can sort of relate and understand better. But certain things, I think in the context of the examination, you do have to mug up. You can't run away from that. But for other things, I think notes again, making concise notes and re-revising them makes them sort of imprinted in your head for a longer period of time. So especially for history, I think, because the syllabus is that vast, after a point of time I did not have to rely on any books. I only relied on my own notes. So it's easier for revision immediately before the mains examination.
Sure. One very tricky question. Do I need to come to Delhi to be an IAS?
Sir, I do not think that you need to necessarily come to Delhi before the examination, before preparing. We have seen year after year people from rural backgrounds, people from not from Delhi, from remote areas cracking this examination. What you do need is access to material. What you do need is guidance and a certain strategy that you are following yourself, and a sort of self accountability in terms of preparing a time management schedule, doing that revision, doing that practice. So those are things that you do need to impose on yourself. If you can do that, if you can maintain that self-discipline and have access to the basic books, which I think are available online as well for people who do have that accessibility, I think you can crack this examination sitting anywhere else as well.
So you are topper of IAS examination. You were topper of St. Stephen's as well. You got into Jawaharlal Nehru University. Then you got into Delhi School of Economics as well. But I am a mediocre student. Do I have a chance? Role of academic background.
Yes, sir. I do acknowledge that I have been to certain institutions which did give me a very strong foundation and backing, both in the subject of history as well as my general studies at Sardar Patel Vidyalaya and other institutions. But I think, as can be seen from various other examples of people who have cracked this examination from rural backgrounds as well, I think what this examination requires is an understanding of basic concepts, is an application of those basic concepts, good analytical skills, which I think people may have to work even more harder than me, because I had that privilege. They have to maybe work harder than me to acquire those skills, but I think it's very, very possible, as can be seen from various examples. You just need to have a correct strategy and have your basics right.
Right. So last thing, Shruti, what is your message, advice to the students? Like you are an ideal, and first attempt, second attempt, everywhere you proved. Academic excellence you have. What is your advice to the upcoming bureaucrats, those students who are planning to prepare or they are preparing for this exam? What would be your advice to them?
So my advice to them would mainly be, first understand why you're giving this examination. If you feel it's only out of external pressure, I think because the examination journey is very long, I think you won't be able to sustain it if you don't have that internal motivation. So first get that right. Once you have that strong, I think sticking to basic materials, following the syllabus, practice and revision. These may be very boring things, but I think they work out in the long run. I think also in terms of the downs that come in the preparation, don't get disheartened. Just be sure that you are giving your 100%. Once you do that, I don't think people will have any regrets later on that they did not give their 100%. Even after that, if you don't qualify, because I know that the exam is very competitive. Only this time there were around 700 seats. Sometimes there are 1,000 seats. Lakhs of people sit for this examination. So not everyone can clear. But that is in no indication of your worth. There are various other ways in which you can give back to people around you, in which you can contribute to the nation. So follow that, and I'm sure that if you do anything with full honesty, you'll get that self-fulfillment and satisfaction.
Great. Thank you, Shruti, for joining us and sharing your insight. So, Shruti Sharma, All India Rank 1. It was really a privilege and honor for us to discuss the overall strategy of this examination. She discussed about role of academic background. She discussed about place where you are preparing from. She also discussed about how to create extraordinary answers for your mains examination and your strategy for the sake of or for the purpose of prelims examination, mains examination and personality test, that is interview. We had a very insightful discussion on how to select optional subject as well. How many number of hours you need to study. So, how many newspapers you need to study. So, we have a very enlightening and very thoughtful discussion with Shruti Sharma. Thank you. Thank you so very much for joining BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Thank you.